Hello friends and welcome, my name's Popeye and today we're playing some Steins Gate Zero. As always, I have some trigger warnings because this game is not for everyone and I want everyone who stays here to feel comfortable. And if any of these things do not make you feel comfortable, please find some place that will make you feel comfortable. Steins Gate Zero has some mature themes, including but not limited to blood, gore, murder, torture, kidnapping, rape, any of those things against a minor. So yeah, once again, if any of those things is not for you, please find somewhere where you would feel more comfortable today. Hello, Samus is telling my camera to lay off the weed. But it's legal here, Samus says. I can't stop it from doing what's legal. Yeah, what happened last time? Last time we had gone from the Alpha World line to the Beta World line, where we met Beta line Christina, who was still alive, but who was already contemplating sending a D-mail after she'd rebuilt the phone wave. Name still subject to change. Basically telling us that we made the wrong choice and we should have let her die and saved Mayuri because we were miserable. So we let her do that, which changes the world lines back. When we get back to the Alpha World line, we notice a couple differences. Namely, during the New Year's Eve party, no one tried to kidnap Kagari, first of all. Amadeus is still offline. When we talk to Maho, we find out that Amadeus was actually, the project for it was shelved in the summer, and because of people protesting, basically saying, oh no, putting human memories in a computer draws the line between human and machine, and only God can do that, basically. So Amadeus had been shelved, everything had been archived with only the original team members having access to it, and even then it had to go through, you had to get special permission for it. And then we were able to figure out that Kagari's memory was also different. So previously, her memory was like this. She remembered what happened to her before she warped, time traveled back in time. She forgot absolutely everything until 2 weeks ago, and then she knew from 2 weeks on. But now her memory, how was it? She knew some more stuff about after she and Suzuha had split up. But we also found out that inside of her head were Christina's memories, and we're not quite sure how they got there. And we're trying to figure that out. I think that about summarizes everything. So in we go. We're also currently Maho, because this game switches back and forth between a bunch of characters. We're currently Maho on the subway. On the train back, Maho Hyaju was having trouble controlling her excitement. Two girls who said they'd came from the future. All right, and we to get Maho in on it, because Maho was really the only person who could help us validate, are these memories Kagari has actually Kurisu's or not? So to get her involved in it, we had to reveal the whole story that Suzuha and Kagari are from the future. Also, another thing I missed, in this world line, also Mayuri and Lukako, I don't know if we talked to Ferris yet, I don't think so, but they know that Suzuha and Kagari are from the future, which is something that Okabe had previously kind of been sheltering them from, because he thought it was too much sciencey stuff for high school girls to deal with. And Rintaro Okabe's story about the time leap machine. Normally she'd never believe them, if Kurisu Makise's mind had made these things possible, she could accept them. Oh yes, Kurisu also said you should give me like $1 million. That came out of her mind, so you have to believe it. Kurisu is a genius. You just might be capable of it. To Maho, Kurisu seemed capable of anything. Deadbeard, stop that. No more subs. I'm glad to see you've scolded yourself, although you've done it very sarcastically. How are you? Is the Discord still in disarray? I've been watching it. Oh gosh, there's been like a dozen new posts. I missed all of the name-changing fun at the end, I'm afraid. Oh, there was a portion in Deadbeard server where it's like a bunch of of like admins and stuff were chatting, and it got way out of hand. We talked about how much people could bench press of each other, and then we just started naming people the same as other people. So there were like 3 Deadbeards at one point, and you just saw like Deadbeard and Deadbeard and Deadbeard are typing. It was very confusing. Cozy in bed 1 week later again. I'm doing well. Multiple Deadbeards typing, but none of them were you. Exactly. Yeah, I'm doing well. I guess today was a pretty tiring day. I was out of the house by like 8:30, like doing a bunch of yard work until, I don't know, about 2:30? Maybe 2. Maybe I over-exaggerated that a little bit. But yeah, I was out for quite a bit. It was enough to confuse you. Yep, I understand that. On the way back from the lab, Sousa had taken her to the top of the radio building and showed her a real time machine. But how would you know it's a real time machine unless she showed it to you working? Otherwise, it just looks like a bunch of random sciencey stuff. It was night, and she didn't have a lot of time to look at it closely, but you could tell at a glance that it wasn't made with modern technology. Yeah, I hope this seed is better for you, Samus.
Suspicious.
Hello, Fox, and your suspicious bits. Dalmatian beans says hello? What are the Dalmatian beans? Oh, right, that was the thing we named. 'Cause beans. Samus is, I did miss the naming of beans, but I did hear the name later. And as soon as beans was in the name, I knew exactly why beans was in the name, but I did miss the actual naming of it. Because yes, I came back later. I think it was after you and Mim had left that one. Hydrate. Here is your hydrate. And just for Beardy, it's still room temperature water because he thinks that means I hate myself. But I actually prefer room temperature water, so joke's on him. Where are we? Honestly, she wanted to start work on making another one tomorrow. No, right now even. But she had something to do first. And it involved beans. The time leap machine that Kurisu had made. She needed to make an improved version. Oh no, please do not make a new version of the time leap machine. That meant she was going to be practically living at Akabe's lab for a while. So she decided to get what she needed from the office in Wako City. How can I eat all these beans? I know, like, I can hold, like, I don't know what, like... How many beans is this much? You could actually probably hold, like, over 100 beans, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. If they're brown beans. Not, like, green beans. From outside the building, she could see that the lights were still on, despite the late hour. I mean, you could easily have a can of beans in each hand. And then you could probably stack a pyramid, so you could have 3 cans fairly easily. Actually, if you have it like this, and you have someone else stack them vertically... I'm just thinking about this. Like, if you're just like, okay, you know, here's 1 can of beans. Here's another can of beans. Here's another can of beans. I should not be doing this, so I'm going to put my cell phone on top of this, and it's already falling over. But I'm going to do it anyways. There's my 5th can of beans. And yeah. I'm not juggling my phone, Samus is. Yeah, if it was like this, like a can worth, yeah. Let all the bean juice just like fall through your fingers. As soon as she got inside, Dr. Luskin rushed over, his face pale. Oh no, there's papers on the floor? Yeah, I think this is a 2-person bean job. Gosh, that's a phrase I didn't think I would say when I woke up today. The room had clearly been ransacked. Of course, the place barely had anything in it to begin with. With a quick glance, it was hard to see what had changed. Maho and Dr. Luskin's desk had clearly been searched. The drawers had been locked. Thank you for the quote, Samus. I think this is a 2-person bean job. What we're hearing is I need someone to pour some beans into my... Oh, please no. Because, first of all, I don't want to be wasting all those beans, and I don't want to then have to, like, shove all those beans into my mouth. All that bean juice is going to go probably onto my lap and my chair, and I'm already not liking where this is going. So then I'm either going to have to go and change clothes and wipe down my chair, or just stream with a bunch of bean juice on my crotch. Just have a pot under my hands. I mean, that sounds a lot better than what I just described. And then cook and eat them on stream. That sounds like a very boring stream. It's just like, okay, now that we've seen how much beans I can hold, I'm just gonna warm them up in this pot and then just eat them from the pot while I just stare at you like this. What is chat today? Still more entertaining than the 12-hour slow cooker stream. What, you didn't want to watch my ribs cook over a day? Dr. Reyes hadn't brought much of anything, fortunately, and so she'd escaped with very little damage, but her drawers had been dumped out too. You two want to watch it?
何者かが侵入したらしいんだ。
泥棒ってことですか？私が来た時にはこの状態だったの。もしかしたら企業スパイの類かもしれないわね。
I mean, Dr. Reyes, we saw that last world line. We know you're evil.
何もないところで。
Wouldn't it make more sense to hit the Riken Institute next door? Only few people even knew this office existed to begin with. Suddenly, Okabe's words began to take on a new meaning for her. Could this have something to do with what he'd said? The secret war over the time machine already beginning?
とにかく魔法、君も何か盗まれていないか調べたまえ。
はい。
I don't want to take a look at my desk. What if you steal my stuff? I know one of you owns a gun.
いえ、私の方は何も。
She checked the desk and the drawers and couldn't find a single thing missing. Would it count as a hot tub stream if it was a regular tub of beans, do you think? See, a hot tub stream, at least to me, because like a hot tub is a very specific item. It doesn't specify what you filled it with, or even that it's filled at all. I mean, if you wanted to have an unfilled hot tub party, I mean, go for it. But I'd pose this question. I can't remember whose stream it was on. I mean, I've also watched people, like, literally in the bathtub, so... I think Twitch is just saying you can be in water, or a liquid. But how... If you just stayed in a hot tub for, like, a 12-hour stream, would you just have, like, human soup with you as the main ingredient now? Or is that not how soup works? Next question, how do you redeem this? The sad part is, I can already think of ways I can do this, but I don't want to. It is ad quote, not quote ad. You got the wrong one. There we go. I've also watched people literally in the bathtub. Yep. Humans. But, okay. So here... First of all, I don't think this is going to happen. But if it did, here's what would happen. At my house, we have a rain collection barrel. And it's, I don't know, it's wider than me. It's, I don't know, maybe about 4.5 feet tall. That's what, like, meter 40, something like that. So, if you wanted to just see me, like, literally just standing in this, and not really be able to move other than to, like, twirl around, that would basically be it. How many quotes are we up to now? 78. She checked the desk and the drawers and couldn't find a single thing missing.
教授たちは
こちらも何も盗まれてはいないようだわ。
PC の中も確かめてみたが、第三者にアクセスされた形跡は見られない。
You have a very in-depth and off-topic question, that is all. Okay. I mean... I don't even know what the topic is right now. We're talking about human soups, hot tub, time streams, eating beans, beans falling on your lap. I don't really know if we have a topic at this point.
本当に何も取られてないかい？
はい。
そういえば魔法。
Well, I think anything's on the table at this point, Samus, so go ahead. Or in your hands if it's beans.
そうか、ならいいんだが。
どうする？警察に連絡する？
何も取られていないなら、ことを荒立てる必要はないのかもしれないな。
そうね。少し様子を見ましょうか。
Maho wasn't sure that was a good idea, but she could understand that going to the police would be a big hassle, especially since they weren't Japanese to begin with. More than anything, Dr. Leskinen probably didn't want to lose time that could be spent on research. Same was true of Maho, too.
教授。
He went to work on a Minecraft randomizer tracker. He's trying to figure out a potential feature. I wanted to see if anyone else thought the feature would be too cheaty. Okay. I'm maybe not the best person to ask, because I don't know a whole lot about Minecraft, but you can try. I have played a bit of it. Dr. Luskin agreed to give her a vacation much more readily than she'd expected. Yeah, go for it, Samus's. Maybe coming to the office over New Year's had paid off. Now she'd been able to focus on the time leap machine. When she got back to her hotel room, she quickly got her things ready. She wasn't checking out of the hotel, but she needed clothes and other things so she could stay at the lab for a while.
よし。あとは。
When she finished packing her bag, she grabbed another bag that was placed next to it. It was a laptop and portable hard drive that she'd gotten from Kurisu's mother after her death. She tried many times to crack the password, but never managed to succeed. She knew that she wouldn't have time to do anything with it, but she still didn't want to leave it here.
そうだわ。
You were thinking, when the player specifies they broke a block instead of putting in what it drops, current implementation idea, it could have it read the loot table and autofill the drop. However, breaking a block once won't always return the loot based on a random chance drop requiring an enchantment like Silk Touch. Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, you want a tracker that basically says, I broke this type of block and it dropped this kind of thing. And have it read the loot table and autofill the drop. However, because of percentile chances, breaking something doesn't always return that. Or it could require some kind of extra feat or skill or whatever. But I basically understood it. Tracker needs to keep track of what the loot tables are, either automatically or manually. And also have a search feature to give you the progression necessary to get an item. Okay. Okay, so I think I understand what it is you're talking about. How is it cheaty? After she made one last check of her things and got ready to leave the room, an idea came to her. Not a bad idea, if I do say so myself. Maybe this is what Kurisu wanted. She quickly shook her head and chased the idea from her mind. Kurisu would get mad at her. Life and death were like a binary, 0 and 1. It could be one or the other. There was no will that existed after death. If it existed at all, it existed inside the brain. Break a single grass block and it drops, say, glass. You wouldn't know unless you broke it with Silk Touch, automatically filling that in would tell the player something they shouldn't know yet. Okay, I see. So because it's a randomizer, the thing that you break drops something else that's completely random, and you don't want the player to necessarily know what it drops because it could have something that has a very rare item that with a small % chance to drop, and you don't want them to figure that out. Counterpoint, there are like 15 to 20 loot tables that literally drop nothing. Could you meet it kind of halfway, that if you, as the player, say break a minimum number of blocks of that type, say grass, and let's say grass is one of the ones that drops nothing, that it autofills like an entry in your tracker that says this thing drops nothing. That way it rules out this thing has a very low % chance of dropping something. Can't time the game to automatically do all of this, so the player would need to manually specify. Okay. I mean, okay, here's my thought on it then. Um, I don't think it's overly cheaty, and here's my reason why. If you include that information, a player can always look at it and look at their tracker and see what it could have dropped. If the players want to play with that kind of mystery, they can just not look at it. It's like it gives them more flexibility, and then it's up to the player to decide how they want to play the game. Also, I just lost the game, so enjoy that. Several days passed, and I still had no idea who planted the memories in Kagari's head. I went all the way out to talk to the priests who found her, and even questioned the locals in the surrounding area, but I had no luck. Also, Samus is probably, I'm guessing it's going to be a much easier implementation for you if you just implement it consistently, that it adds to the table, no? Spite lurk. Sousa seemed to be doing her own research. She hadn't been back to the lab since then. She was in touch with Dara at regular intervals, so I didn't think she was in danger. I asked to know Jean Moak again, but neither of them seemed to have any luck. In this world line, the lab hadn't even been attacked, which meant they might be up to something else. Yeah. Yeah, having the player manually enter it is for sure. Okay, so the two options are either you look it up with the loot tables automatically, which is more effort, but gives you, as the designer of this randomizer, more flexibility. At just having the user manually enter it as they discover things is much easier on you as the developer, but offers much less flexibility. Even if there were, I had no way of imagining what it was. But I was sure that someone had kidnapped a young Kagari Shina and experimented on her, and only recently had she escaped. They had to be planning something. I'm sure it was bad. We didn't have time to wait for them to act. Without any clues, there was nothing we could do. My mind kept going in circles, and I kept getting more frustrated and nervous with every minute.
すみません、真帆先輩。私のために。
Yeah, but that's still going to be much easier on you with having them enter it, I imagine. Yeah. I mean, okay, so you said you already have to read in some of the data, handle some of the features. I would do that data reading in first. See how complicated it is, because you'll probably have a better understanding of how tough it'll be once you've already read in some of the data to handle it. And in situations like this, my gut usually says start with whatever's easiest, and then later you can always switch to the harder version if you find that the easy version is not what you want. And especially if you do an easy version and then later decide to do the hard version, if you've already implemented it, you could just allow the user to enter like a toggle that lets them decide how they want to play if you've already implemented both. But yeah, I would start with seeing what's there, since you already have to take a look at it, seeing how hard it is, and then make a decision from there. But I would always say lean towards whatever is the simplest example, especially for like a proof of concept. Like the first iteration you put out of something you should not have over-engineered it. If you over-engineer it, you're going to spend more time, more effort, and you're going to be much more delayed getting your product out the door for other people to test than if you had gone the simple route. And then while people are trying out your randomizer and giving you feedback, maybe at that point you can hear feedback from them saying, I really dislike this text entry, it's monotonous, it takes away from the fun, or something like that. Usually getting something out to whoever's going to be using your product or site or whatever first, getting that out as early as possible is, and from experience, the best thing you can do. Maho staggered out of the development room, sank into the sofa, and smiled deeply. I mean, I'm sure that will come around. Yeah, I mean, one of the ones we recently had was user make it so I don't have to enter CAPTCHA. And I'm like, no, that's not how CAPTCHA works. So, regardless of what you do, you're never going to please everyone, so think of, first of all, what's best on you, what's best on getting your product out to as many people as possible, and then once you're at that point, then you can look at, if I do this, like, how many people want this feature implemented, is it worth my time? Yeah, like, that's the kind of thing that's probably going to be suggested. It's just, when you dig into it and, like, spend, I don't know, a day or two just looking at it, seeing how hard it would be, and then once you've seen how hard it is, you just have to weigh, is this worth the effort? Like, if it's going to add, say, 100 new satisfied users with this randomizer, is that worth it to me? And that's really what it comes down to. There were dark spots under her eyes. For the last few days she'd been working on the device without any sleep. Her work needed to pay off soon, as fast as possible.
携帯電話を使うだなんて普通考えないわ。たとえ考えついたとしても実行に移そうなんて思わない。
携帯は離すときにどうしても受話器をこめかみ付近に近づける必要があるからな。
こめかみ周辺には大脳前頭葉と大脳側頭葉がありますからね。側頭葉の海馬傍回が記憶を貯蓄する場所だと考えると妥当な判断かと。問題はどうやって記憶を圧縮させるかよね。
それについてはもっか僕が毎日徹夜で頑張ってるわけだが。
すまないな、ダル。
しかもハッキングがここからだって絶対にバレないようになんて言うから大変だっつうの。他のバイトだってあるのにさ。
Impress the memories, we needed CERN's LHC no matter what. Well, we're back to terms from the first game. Welcome to the LHC, which is of course the Large Hadron Collider, which is an experimental device used to cause charged particles to collide and study the results. Built by CERN and located 100 meters under the ground in Geneva, Switzerland. It is the world's largest ring-shaped particle accelerator. Its total length is 27 kilometers. Many different teams, including one from Japan, use the device to perform experiments. The reason it's a ring is that when charged particles pass through an electromagnetic field, the Lorentz force causes them to bend. That one took a lot of thought. We made an enemy out of CERN that tragedy had gone through before would repeat. The main reason that CERN had attacked us was the emails we'd sent to the past. It it weren't for that, they probably wouldn't have bothered. And since we weren't sending D-mails, CERN would probably never even detect us. Probably. Fortunately, Sousa had the IBN 5100 that we needed for the hack. Things were coming together better than I'd expected.
にしてもさ、オカリン、彼女、ほんと別人みたいなんですけど。
I nodded at Daru. The past few days, more of Kurisu's memories had been invading Kagari's mind. Lately, she'd even started discussing complex technical subjects with Maho. She was acting just like Kurisu used to when she lived in America. At first, Maho seemed put off, but she eventually adapted. Maho probably wanted to get details about the device from Kurisu, so it seemed to be helping.
それにしても、こんなラボで本当にタイムリープマシンを作ってたなんて、実際にタイムマシンを目にした今でも信じられないわ。でも人間の記憶を丸ごとデータ化して過去に飛ばすなんて発想はすごいですよね。さすがは真帆先輩。その言葉、そっくりそのままあなたに返してあげるわ。はい？あなたは天才で、所詮私はサリエリだったってことよ。
Watching two of them, it was easy to fool myself into thinking that it was just Maho and Kurisu talking.
Kagari.
そうだ、アマデウスで思い出しましたけど、プロジェクトはどうなってるんですか？残念ながら凍結されたわ。
Kagari.
凍結？どうして？もしかしてレスキネン教授が決めたんですか？私にもわからないわ。教授はもっと上からの指示だって言ってたけど。そんな、せっかく順調に言ってたのに。
なあ、クリス。
はい？あれ？私、今。
君はカガリ。椎名カガリだよな。
椎名カガリ。そう、私は椎名カガリ。私は。
Kagari suddenly put her hands up to her head, afraid.
でも、それじゃあ、これは。この頭の中にある記憶は何？
それはマキセクリスの記憶だ。君の記憶じゃない。
そんなこと言われてもわかんないよ。
Kagari was acting completely different now than she was just a moment ago with Maho. Raised her voice like a child throwing a tantrum.
だって私にとっては私の記憶でしかないんだもん。マユリンママたちとの記憶も、子供の頃のパパとの記憶も、アメリカの大学での出来事も全部私の中にあるんだもん。どれが本当でどれか嘘かなんて私わかんないよ。
Her words turned to sobs. I could understand how she felt. From her perspective, it was all real. None of it was fake. It was easy to tell her to get a hold of herself, but it wasn't that easy for her to actually do it. I remembered what Kurisu had said when she'd finished the time leap machine. She'd said you could never put your memories inside someone else's mind. It would destroy their personality. But if, just if, we were to leave Kagari like this, what would happen? There was a chance that her own memories would disappear and only Kurisu's would remain. If that happened, who would the person in front of me become? Would they be Kagari? Or would they be Kurisu? If it was Kurisu, that wasn't true. It was impossible. I couldn't even think about it. The more I thought, the more I felt a horrible idea tugging at my mind, no matter how much I tried to ignore it.
私、どうしたらいいの？助けて。ママ、パパ。
It would have been great if Mayuri was around, but unfortunately both she and Lukako had gone to school. Unfortunately, the children went to school. Ah, what a sweatshop that is. Both of them were worried about Kagari and had told me to contact them if anything came up. That didn't mean I could rely on them all the time. You hate it when the children go to school. Like, think of it like playing The Sims. You don't let your kids go to school, you give them jobs so that they earn you money. And then they are productive members of your household.
Kagari-tan, ちょっと気分転換に散歩でもしてきたらどう？
そうね。人間じっとしてると余計なこと考えちゃうものよ。少しくらい体を動かした方がいいかもしれないわね。
というわけでオカリン、係-tanを頼んだ。
I did recently learn that in one of the updates, pets can get jobs in The Sims. So then you can just have a bunch of pets working and all the humans do nothing but just like take all the pets' money. Yeah, I don't know which version of The Sims that was, but I recently saw it, that there's, I don't even know if it's the most recent version of The Sims or not. I think it was Sims 3, I think. Don't quote me on that. No, they're pet-themed jobs. So it's like you can be a guard dog or, can't remember what the other ones were. I think when I watched the person playing, they just picked guard dog, even though they were cats. They were guard cats, but they picked guarding for everything. I guess was the highest paying. Deadbeard, you've made Samus's also do the wrong one. Definitely 100% quote me on that. It was Sims 2. Okay, there you go. I knew it wasn't the most recent one. Yeah, I figured out Samus's when I saw the ending. I was like, okay, yeah. There you go. The Sims 2 had pet jobs. So your pets could get jobs, and like it wasn't even a trivial amount of money. Like they could start working and be making like $150, $180 a day. So then you have multiple pets all doing that, and pet food costs what, like $10 to fill the bowl a day? Eh. If Popeye was a sim, he'd approach strangers and say, "Let's just hydro pump this child from behind!" Oh gosh. Yeah, Savior, I will sub-school to you for that. How are you doing? All the pets you've ever owned have been dirty freeloaders. No, it'd be cool. Yes, this is not Discord. You lost your scold emote. Yeah, copy Deadbeard. Just, you shouldn't lose it. It's still the same bit reward. Took a quick road trip. Ah, that sounds fun. I personally haven't really been on road trips, so I hate driving places. There you go. I think the longest drive I've done... Yeah, that one worked, Samus's. The longest drive I think I've done was about 2.5 hours each way. And I mean, you can definitely do a lot more. We've talked about long... What the heck is that, Deadbeard? You might need to... Ruswask? Is that you trying to pronounce Mike Wazowski's last name? Is that you trying to type it?
わかった。
The two of us walked out to Central Street together, but we didn't really have anything to do. The air outside must have made her feel a little better, because Kagari was starting to calm down. How did you go from Rehuausk to freelance to refresh?
その、どこか行きたいところあるかな？
Should you be sleeping, Deadbeard?
どこでもいいの？
ああ、君の行きたいところでいい。
I want to go to America. Dang it.
それじゃあ、クリスさんと行ったところに連れてってほしい。
Lulk? Is that lull and lurk at the same time? Lulk?
オカリンさんがクリスさんと歩いたことのある場所に連れて行って。
Linux unifying hearing? Somewhere I'd been with Kurisu. Where could that be? Going laundry in the neighborhood? Orin Park? Gyudon Sambo? I hadn't spent a lot of time with her at fun or romantic places. Hey, you want to come to the top of a skyscraper with me for no reason? I'd spent a lot of time with her, but most of it had disappeared into many different world lines. I'd gone through that time again and again. But most of it had been spent arguing and working with her at the lab. We'd never spent any time going places to have fun. We'd never made it to Amori either. I think that's supposed to be where her dad was.
初めて会った場所。
Oh no, here comes the trigger!
私、そこに行きたい。
Place where Chris and I had met. It was... that place where I murdered her! Take that.
ここが?
A brightly colored building in front of Akihabara Station. The radio building. This was where it started. Yes, this is where everything had begun. On that day, a time machine appeared on the roof of the building. It was just after that when I met Kurisu. I could still remember it. The challenging look in her eyes. Looking back, I may had already fallen in love with her then. Even though this was the place I'd met her, it was also the place where I'd...
オカリンさん、どうしたの？
すまない。
Lately I'd been so busy with Kagari that I'd started to think I was getting a little better, but maybe I wasn't.
汗すごい。ごめん。もしかして私のせい？
いや、そうじゃないんだ。ただ。
Whenever I came here, I couldn't help but remember what happened that day. But
行こう。
いいの？具合悪いんでしょ？
大丈夫だ。
I couldn't just stand out here forever. So I don't have beans for you now, but I've got a bowl of salsa. Samus wants a stretch, the no audio stretch. I've got salsa and nachos now. Okay. Alright, here is your stretch. Awkward silence. I mean, we can also have awkward silence while I eat nachos. That's not a redemption. Here you go. There you go. You're good. See, it really depends on, do you like hearing people eating? I think that's really what it comes down to. No more. Fine, I will save the rest of my nachos for after stream. You hate hearing people eating? Hashtag nom. Don't bring back those nom flashbacks. Samus doesn't like those. Alright. There was your stretch. Let's not run over my cable this time like I have the past 3 times. Oh yes, awkward silence. I was like, what happened? Oh right, awkward silence it was. I couldn't keep Mayuri, Daru, and the others worrying forever. If I needed to get over it at some point, then...
わかった。それじゃ、行こう。
Something soft touched my hand. Kagari was holding my hand tightly in hers.
ありがとう。
Kagari led me down the bustling street towards the radio building. My knees felt like they were about to give out at any second. Even after I'd gone inside, I was still doing better than I thought I would. But I still didn't feel like climbing the stairs where it had happened. Also, I was very out of shape at this point and didn't feel like climbing stairs. So we took the elevator to the roof. Ferris, aka Rumiho Akiha, had carefully locked the door to the roof so that no one who wasn't authorized could enter. They're Tostitos restaurant-style tortilla chips, so they're chips. I'd been given a key too, but today was the first time I was able to use it. The first thing I saw after coming onto the roof was a strangely shaped object. The time machine. How have we not covered it up? There's several just like buildings across the street. Anyone could just look out their window and see it.
懐かしい。これ。私、これに乗ってきたんだよ。
Gari happily ran up to the time machine. It was right after she separated from Suzuha that she'd lost her memories. Canada has everything you would miss if you left. There's no downside. I'm sure there's some downside. Our prices are higher for most things. She remembered going from the future to this place in 1975.
初めてこのビルの上に降りた時にね、お空がすっごく綺麗でびっくりしたの。
Unfortunately, it wasn't very pretty right now. Gari spoke as if there was an endless blue sky stretching out in front of us.
私、ママと別れるのが嫌で、ずっとこのマシンの中で泣いてた。ママに会いたいよって。そんなことじゃダメだ。いつまでも泣くんじゃないって。
Our wages are higher too. Our taxes are also higher. So for an actual take home from like a pay, I don't know which would be higher. And then you'd have to factor in actual purchasing power into that. Because I think I'm about average for taxes, and I think I'm paying 21% on my taxes. It could be higher than that, actually. I think the next bracket's 23%.
そんな時に開いたハッチの外に見えたのが青い空だったな。
Yeah, so okay, so in Canada, I guess your taxes would go towards, you know, the usual things, like garbage collection, road repair, park maintenance, those kinds of things. Probably the main difference is, as you might expect, healthcare. In Canada, going to a hospital is free of charge. Any of the tests and stuff are free of charge, usually, and basically any non-cosmetic surgery, so anything that's required, which, you know, is most anything that's not like like Botox or anything like that is covered. Things that aren't covered are dentists, eye appointments, and medication. And even then, some of those are, I think, medication's covered until you're 25. Yeah. But the US spends more tax money in healthcare than most countries. Yeah, I mean, comparatively speaking, what's the population of the US right now? You haven't hit 400,000, have you? My knowledge of your general population is quite vague. Canada's population's currently sitting, I think we're 37 million. So like we're like the size of California. If you took all the people in California and spread them out across the whole country.
2036年の空は青くないのか？
うん。戦争の影響でね、ずっと黒くて暗い空。それに外にもなかなか出してもらえないし。
Mid-70s were right after the big economic growth spurt. Ecological concerns weren't as important as they are now. Okay, I was thinking a bit higher than that. I was thinking like 360, 380. But okay, yeah. So you have about 10 times the population of Canada. That was also when air pollution wasn't a really big deal. Game? You okay there, game? There we go. Game was being weird. The air probably wasn't as clean as it is now. If it seemed beautiful to her anyway, it must have meant the air in the future was really terrible.
オカリンさんはここでクリスさんと初めて会ったの？
いや、ここじゃない。ここは。
お。
A cold drop hit my nose.
降ってきちゃった。
Yeah, like, to my understanding, the US has been, I guess, getting better with it, with, what was it, Medicaid, Obamacare. I know it's kind of gone through a couple different names, but it's still not universal healthcare. It's not close to it. You know, maybe, you know, take like 1% out of your military budget.
Oh. そうだな。
That's right.
岡部か。
生きてたか。
そっか。ここだとあんたと。
Also, I imagine then in the US, hospitals are private, as in they're owned by a person or a corporation, yeah?
何をしていた？
Since they are essentially a business making money. Game, Are you doing okay? Yeah, so good luck ripping that out of people's hands. I guess the government would basically have to force buy it out, which they do have the power to do. The government always has, and I assume this is the same in the US and Canada, because it seems like something the US would do if Canada does it. In Canada, at least, the government can purchase your land for a government project, such as a hospital, a highway, an airport. They have the right to buy your land at whatever they deem as a fair price, which is usually lowballing what's the actual market value. So near me, there's been a bunch of farmland that the government bought up. I think it was in the 80s. I want to say maybe the 90s. So they bought up all this farmland to build an airport, and then they never built it. So all that farmland, like, they basically kicked everyone out of it, and then after whatever it was, like 5 years, when they decided, actually, we're gonna pause on building this airport, they had the audacity to rent the land back to the farmers they bought it off of. You don't think so? Okay, fair enough. In Canada, you cannot refuse. The rain had been falling then, too, and she'd learned that either she or Mayuri was fated to die. Come here and looked up at the sky like this. What had she been thinking then? When she'd entrusted her fate to another person, to me. Kagari dragged me inside, away from the noise of the falling rain. I mean, you're on the roof, you'd probably still hear the rain hitting off the roof anyways. A few moments later, I found myself sitting there. The place was being renovated. None of the stores were open. The lights were off too, and it made the place seem very gloomy. That day, after the rain, Chris and I leaned up against each other and talked. This was also the place where...
ここだよ。ここが俺とクリスが初めて会った場所だ。
Strictly speaking, this is where I'd first met her in the Beta World line. That day, half a year ago.
さっき私に何を言おうとしたんですか?
Okay, so they technically can't, but if you try to fight it, you will lose. However, you can argue the compensation is enough and have a good chance to win. Okay, so essentially, they can do it, you can just try and get a couple more bucks out of them. I mean, you might be able to do the same here.
さっきとはいつのことだ?
ほんの15分くらい前、会見が始まる前に。私に何か言おうとしましたよね。すごく悲しそうな顔をして。まるで今にも泣き出しそうで、それにすごく辛そうでした。どうして？私、前にあなたと会ったことありますか
？Thinking back, that was the beginning of everything. I wished I'd never met her. If only I'd known this would be the result. If I'd never met her, I wouldn't have to feel this way.
Okarin-san.
I felt something soft touch my face.
Kagari.
And I'm glad we have a picture, so it's not her eyes.
私が怖がっていると、ママがよくこうしてくれたの。
どうして？
だって、オカリンさん、すごく辛そうで、今にも泣き出しそうなんだもん。
Kagari patted me on the head again and again, as if I were a child.
あいつと
I'm glad to see they have 2 fire extinguishers here.
クリスと初めて会ったのはここだった。
ここってこの踊り場？
ああ、最初の印象は最悪。初めて会ったっていうのに上から目線だわ、睨みつけてくる場で可愛さのかけらもなかった。もっとも向こうだってそう思ってただろうけどな。
After all, at the time I was rambling about nonsense like organization
でも
agents.
それでもクリスさんはオカリンさんにとって大切な人になった。
ああ、
That was in the Alpha World line, though. Right after I'd met Kurisu in this one, she'd...
私の顔ってクリスさんによく似てるんだよね。
どうしてそれを。
真帆さんから聞いたの。
I mean... Let's be real for a second. If someone tells you, hey, you have the memories of this dead girl in your head, and she was murdered in this building in the summer, are you not gonna Google that? I know I would.
それでネットで調べてみたんだけど。
There, once again, I just need to advance one slide and things will say exactly what I was gonna say anyways.
そんな人の記憶が私の中にあるなんて、それも運命なのかなって。
Fate? It always was. Fate laughed at us. It toyed with us.
ねえ、もしも。
I mean, I wrote the Beardy visual novel. Does that count? In university, my thesis project, I was working with a coworker and, well, I guess, not a coworker, just a fellow student, and basically our thesis was about using games as a way of teaching the logic of programming, and it kind of worked as like a visual novel in that there were scenes like this where you'd have the background, you'd have the characters, you'd have the text, and then we had put a game segments in the middle of it. We never finished it. My partner was a bit of a flake. I know he was going through some mental challenges at the time, and like I get it, you know, that stuff happens. Obviously I was a bit frustrated at the time, but you know, it is what it is. He had to take care of himself. I get it. So he didn't actually finish it, but I spent a fair bit of time looking at different visual novel engines for that, as well as not just doing both the like I guess the traditional visual novel stuff, which is just images, text, but also being able to do choices and just insert other game mechanics inside of it. So I have done a bit of that, actually. TIS 100. See, the thing I found, I have also worked with children specifically to teach them programming. Kids love something physical. Kids don't like as much something that's all entirely on on your screen. It's less interesting to them. The best things are something that they can also take and physically do something with. Whether this is like a simple mobile application, in which case you can play with other stuff like the camera, the microphone, compass, gyro, anything like that. The one that I found the best was it was called Lego Mindstorm. I think it still exists. It might have changed names since then. But basically you'd build a robot, and then afterwards you'd program the robot, and we had these different mats, and they had a color sensing camera that was aimed down at the mats. They could see different things. So the main challenge at the end of the session was they had to have it follow a red line, which, you know, it would curve and it would like do like this. And kids love that kind of stuff. And there were more complicated ones. We never did because we'd only ever get booked for like a one-day session kind of thing. But there were other ones like using this map, try and find... Irish, hello and welcome. How is everyone? Thank you for the shout out, I see. How is Pokemon Sword and Shield? Were you doing your randomizer? How was that? We're currently in the middle of a story. We've kind of sidetracked from the game a little bit. But before I finish the story, let me give some information. So hi, I'm Popeye. I play a lot of JRPGs and visual novels. We're currently playing Steins Gate Zero. This game isn't for everyone. I do have some trigger warnings about this game. If you miss any of what I say, you can find it in the description, or in the about of my channel. There's a bit about trigger warnings. But yes, if any of these are not comfortable for you, please find some place that is more comfortable for you tonight. This game includes themes such as murder, torture, rape, death, kidnapping, any of those things against a minor. If any of those things makes you feel uncomfortable, please find somewhere that will make you feel comfortable. Yes, Irish, I swear, I play games like this. Thank you for the follow. I play a lot of games like this to the point where I was like, I should probably just have a trigger warnings thing on my page. Just to give you some examples from this game, we've literally seen a girl get shot in the head, a girl get hit by a train, a character who basically talks about raping a character over and over again. Just to give you some, like, level of the intensity of this game, because I know it's not for everyone. But yes, we were in the middle of a story. We were talking about how to get children interested in programming, and I was talking about I used to work with kids, and we would have them build Lego robots, it was called Lego Mindstorm at the time. I don't know if it's still called that, because this was about 6 years ago. And we were just talking about kids love working with stuff that is physical, that they can touch and move around and do stuff with. That escalated from Pokemon real quick. I mean, you don't know what happens in the Pokemon Breeding Center. I mean... So we were talking just about how we would have the kids, they'd spend like half a day just building these Lego robots, and then they'd spend the other half of the day programming it to try and do stuff. And the main challenge we had, and this was just because it was the first challenge in it, and we never had more time to do anything more than this, was we had a big mat, I don't know, it was fairly large, 6 by 6 feet, something like that, or like 2 by 2 meter. And it had a squiggly red line that went around it, and you had to have your robot track the line, and it had a color sensing camera. And basically the solution, if you don't want to know the solution, I guess tune me out for the next 30 seconds, is you'd have it move forward and turn slightly in one direction. So let's say I picked left. So go forward and turn left, and if you hit the red line, you turn right and keep going forward. And then as you get to a curve, if this hand's the curve, it would come and it would turn and it would hit it and it would bounce off and like this. And then kids, once they'd figured out this, then you're just trying to figure out, okay, what's the max speed I can put it at so it doesn't like cross over the red line and miss it and start spinning in a circle. I see we're arguing about the scariest Pokemon. Ditto, Muck, Macargo is hotter than the surface of the sun. So yeah, so I did that for... I think I did that for about 4 or 5 months, and then I I came back and did 1 or 2 other segments. They basically took time off of my work to send me to go help kids build robots. And also I had to help... Yeah, no worries, Samus, as I got it covered. But thank you for sticking around. And then they took me off of work to also pitch how it worked to some higher-ups so that they could train other people. But yeah, this all came from... we were just talking about building visual novels in general, and I'd spent some time building something that used a visual novel system, but also had games inside of it as part of my thesis project in university to help teach kids how to play games. So that's where this tangent came from. But yeah, so back to the actual game. I'll give people sort of a rundown of what's happening, because I know we have a bunch of people who joined in. So this game mainly revolves around the guy sitting on the stairs who kind of has a dopey look on his face. That is Okabe. Actually, before I get into that, so we're playing Steins Gate Zero. This is actually a sequel game to Steins Gate. If you want to know the plot of Steins Gate, there's going to be some major spoilers in this summary. Also another reason to head off. But if you're sticking around, there's going to be some spoilers for that. It is also an anime. It is one of my probably top 10 anime of all time. The anime doesn't cover all the endings, so we're doing an all endings run of this. We've already done 1 bad ending. I have an endings guide over here that just tells me how to get them, but not what they are. There's 4 bad endings, 1 normal ending, and 1 true ending. So 6 in total for this. In the anime, they don't cover all the bad endings. In particular, the one where there's just like the main character thinking about raping a girl 100 times isn't included there. But yeah, if you want to watch the anime, it's pretty good for what it is. Obviously, they have to cut some stuff out of it. But overall, I think they do a fairly good adaptation of it. I think it's just 24 episodes. And then I think the sequel... Is it also 24? I think it's also 24. Maybe it's a bit less. But yes. So he and some colleagues, they're in university studying physics in downtown Tokyo. They accidentally invent a time machine. They accidentally screw up a bunch of stuff. And during this process, he discovers that basically there's 2 outcomes. Either one of his friends dies, or the other one dies, and he has to choose as he tries to change the past. I won't go into the full details of it, but this game is a partial sequel. It follows one of the bad endings of Steins Gate. He has chosen one of the people to die, and this is him 6 months later living with the trauma of everything that's happened and coming to terms with that decision. At this point in time in the game, basically what's happened is he's got PTSD, he's got anxiety, he's trying to just focus on school and move past everything. When he meets a colleague of the girl he chose to die, and basically gets caught up in time machine stuff and all this all over again. So where we are right now is the girl in the scene, who's named Kagari, at the bottom. She is a time traveler from the future who came with another person, basically saying, if you don't change the future, World War III breaks out, 5 billion people die, and we don't want that because the future's basically hell and we don't want that. And he's like, nope, I'm not going back there. I've done my time. It's not possible. So at this point in time, this girl, someone, and we don't know who, has implanted the memories of the girl who died in her head. So she kind of has like this weird split personality almost that's like kind of ruining her from the inside. And we took her outside just like to catch a breath of air because she was kind of getting confused, having these two sets of memories inside of her head. And she asked, "Take me to the place where the girl who's in my head where you first met." So we're here, and the main character is basically having a panic attack because he's going back through all the PTSD all over again. I think that about covers it. Sorry, we've been on a huge tangent. We will get back to the game now, and I hope you enjoy it. Once again, there are some pretty major and uncomfortable themes here. If that's not for you, I will not be offended. Please find somewhere that's more comfortable for you. If you're sticking around, we will finally move on with the game after a very long, like 30-minute tangent. A drop of rain ran down Kagari's hair and hit the floor.
もしもね、椎名かがりの記憶がなくなって完全にクリスさんの記憶に入れ替わるとしたら
So she's Kagari, and Kurisu is the girl that the main character chose to die and is now the memories inside of Kagari's head.
そしたら
Not confusing at
私
all.
は牧瀬クリスになっちゃうのかな。
そう簡単に行くものじゃないよ。
でももしもだよ、もしもそうなるならオカリンさんは嬉しい？私がクリスさんになったらオカリンさんは嬉しい？
It was the voice of the demon I tried so many times to ignore. I didn't want that. Or did I?
でも私はやっぱり嫌だな。
Another drop of rain struck the floor.
このまま自分がどうやって生きてきたのかもわからないまま誰からも必要とされないまま消えちゃうなんて。
かがり。
私どうなっちゃうのかな。私は
Kagari was shaking a little. It wasn't just because of the cold.
いや。
I never did figure out what she was
この
apologizing
ままじゃ
for.
風邪をひく。そろそろ帰ろう。
Welcome back, Samuses, with your unlural.
とにかく上がってください。
First time I went into Lukako's room, it really did look like a girl's room.
2人ともずぶ濡れ。急いで着替えなきゃ。
Yanabayashi Shrine was closer to the radio building than the lab, so I decided to bring Kagari there. Mayuri had sent me a message on the way, so I had her come here first. Did she actually send me a message? Take that, game. I have no text messages. I feel like I'm obligated to say that she's 16. I figured that Kagari needed Mommy Mayuri right now more than she needed. Also, make things even more confusing. The girl from the last scene, Kagari, who's the time traveler, in the future, 25 years in the future, this character, Mayuri, is her adopted mother. So, it's this weird mother and child relationship where the child is currently 9 years older than the mother.
Mama.
Here you go. So one of them is 16, one of them is 25. The 16-year-old is the mother. Wonderful. Just like I thought, the second she saw Mayuri's face, she relaxed a little. Sam says, you have bad luck in seeds, huh?
お風呂沸かしてきますね。
You were doing, was it a Metroid Prime 2 randomizer, I believe? Lukako handed us towels to wipe away the rain and ran out of the room to start the bath.
お風呂、ママと一緒がいい。マユシーと？いいよ。あ、でも、オカリンはどうする？
いや、俺はいい。かがりを先に入れてやってくれ。
ありがとう。オカリンも風邪ひいちゃうから、着替えだけでもしてね。
なんとかする。
Maybe I could borrow Lukako's father's clothes? Just as I got up to leave the room.
じゃん
That was the creepiest sigh I've ever heard in my life.
かがりちゃん。
Something was wrong with Kagari. He was staring at Mayuri's face,
か
confused.
がり？
誰？あなたは誰？マユシーだよ、かがりちゃん。
So wouldn't that whole time thing mean it happened to the adopted mom in the past of the Kagari we know? Okay, let me brain understand time travel. So Mayuri here, 25 years in the future, assuming this past does not change, would have experienced this. The way time travel works for the purposes of this game is there's basically different, I guess you'd call them endings. So, for example, the choosing between which of the two characters had to die. Those were the two different endings. And by using time travel, you could switch between those two. However, along the way, there's a bunch of minor differences you can make that might, say, change... I don't know, if someone bought one kind of thing or went someplace on this kind of day. Yes. There's both time travel and kind of multiverses at the same time. So, they both have the ability to time travel and go back, I think it's 48 hours before when the time machine was created. So they can do that, and then if they go back in time, then they can change something that splits and makes a different timeline, so it splits off, and now you have two from this point. But they can also send text messages to the past without physically traveling to the past, and using those can change an event in the past that modifies the present, so the characters in the present things are modified at that point in time, but they didn't go back and experience everything along the way. Hope that clears things up.
かがり、私の名前？
かがり。
Yeah, I still get a bunch of it confused all the time. This game also, so it's got this explanation stuff, and they have some stuff's real, some stuff is fake, and they do a pretty good job at talking about a bunch of different things, especially the scientific things. So they talk a lot about brain science, about how can memories transfer, about how the brain works, about do we have black hole matter? They talk about a bunch of these different... Oh, and there's a bunch of computer terms also. Yeah, so they actually go into pretty good detail trying to explain a bunch of this stuff. And then, of course, you have the typical joke spin-offs like Goggle, which is, what everyone uses to search things on the internet.
違う。私は誰なの？ 私は
Yes, this game all does. Was that in the last game, Sam says, where they wouldn't explain complex scientific terms, but then they explained what was it? Working was? It was something super dumb. Kagari tore at her hair and let loose a cry that sounded like it came from the pits of hell.
しっかりしろかがり。
She was like a puppet whose strings had been cut. All the strength left in her body, all the strength left her body, and she fell forward. By the time I left Lukako's house, the rain had stopped. We waited for a while after that, but Kagari showed no signs of waking up. She looked peaceful as she was sleeping, so I decided to leave her to Mayuri and Lukako and head back to the lab. According to the two of them, she'd gotten confused several times in the past, but never like this. She might have underestimated how dangerous her situation really was. Her brain was probably under a lot of stress already. She needed a way to deal with this, and now. But for that... The second I opened the door, I heard Daru and Maho yelling.
本当か。
I ran inside without even taking the time to remove my shoes.
お、オカリン、なんつグッドタイミング。
岡部さん、びしょ濡れじゃない。
Yes, we got the big man, who is probably my least... Actually, not even probably. He is my least favorite character. Because he has two functions. He's good with computers and he can hack stuff, and then the other half of what he says is just perverted nonsense. So he's basically a plot device.
そんなことはどうでもいい。それよりもやったのか。
むふ。
Garu gave me a thumbs up.
でかした誰。
I mean, he's been useful right now, Samus says, because he just hacked CERN to get us the information we needed. Other than that, what else has he brought? He brought us pudding one time. I guess that was nice.
スーパーハッカーなのだぜ。これくらい当然だっつーの。
You could say that, but I knew exactly how much talent and effort it took to hack CERN. Your average hacker couldn't do it. The name Super Hacker wasn't just for
ヒヤジョーさ
show.
んはヒヤジョーさんの方も完成したのか。
私だってこれくらいどうってことなかったわ。
Maho stuck her thumb up just like Daru had.
さすがだな。
I mean, yeah, so he's also supposed to be smart. He's a university student studying physics. So he's definitely smart. He's just his character just rubs you the wrong way so much.
まあこれも全部あなたやかがりさんから情報を得られたからなんだけど、そういう意味ではかがりさんの中にクリスの記憶が残っていて助かったわね。
いや、それでも完成させたのはヒヤジョーさんの力だ。
ありがとう。その言葉素直に受け取っておくわ。あとは実際にきちんと機能するかどうかが問題だけど、こればっかりは試してみるわけにもいかないのよね。
そうだな。
僕はキッチン二郎3回な。
Okay, so we got a new term. Kitchen Jiro. A restaurant chain in downtown Tokyo as well as in Kansai. There's a popular combo menu that offers a large amount of delicious food. In addition to the restaurants, it also offers a delivery service. Eyebrows and science gorilla. Sure thing. Anyway, everything was ready. All that was left to find out who they were. That was still the biggest problem.
それじゃ私はちょっと眠らせてもらうわ。さすがに疲れる。
Sound of a ringing phone cut her off. Is it mine? It's not my phone.
もう誰よ。人がこれから寝ようって時に。はい、もしもし。
She muttered to herself as she took the phone to the back of the development room.
で、かがりたんの方はどうなん？
それなんだが。
Oh, now I got a message. So I can ignore you now, and I can just look at my messages. I let out a small sigh of relief. Sent back an answer. So Lukiko says, Kagari woke up, she's calmed down. Got it, sorry, can you look after her for a while? I'll contact you if I need you.
実はあまり良くない。今日なんて真由りのことすらわからなくなった。
マジで？
それだけじゃない。その後ひどい頭痛を訴えて意識を失った。
それまずくね？
まずいな。なんとかしないと。
Unless we knew who we were up against, there's nothing we could do.
本当ですか？
Dara and I exchanged glances at the sudden voice coming from the development
マホ
room.
タン、どうしたん？
何かあったのか？
When we looked inside, Maho turned around in a state of
荒
shock.
らされたって。私の借りてたホテルの部屋。
The call was from the hotel. Maho was staying at a business hotel in Wako City. Sometime in the past few days, while she'd been staying here, someone had ransacked it. She'd left her keycard with the front desk, but there were signs that the lock had been picked. You'd just given her okay to search the room.
それで詳しい状況は分かったのか？
今から警察に連絡するから、何が盗まれてるか調べるためにも早く戻ってこいって。
じゃあ何が取られたかわからんってこと？もしかして下着とかも？
Exhibit A. Now that we're done talking about computer stuff, this is his personality.
そういうのは全部持ってきてるわよ。セクハラで訴えましょうか？
うひー、それだけは勘弁。
まあ、私の部屋って普段から散らかってるから、荒らされてるように見えただけって可能性もある。楽観的に考えればね。
It's also weird in a game where the character has a solid 5-minute monologue about whether or not he should rape someone. And then his, it's just a weird juxtaposition of him, nonchalantly putting out really sexual harassment type things, and then having a legitimate internal monologue with all seriousness.
鍵が開けられてたって言うから、誰かが入ったのは間違いないでしょうけど。
So this was in the first game. Once again, this was spoilers. The main character basically gets just stuck in a time loop in one of the bad ends where he just keeps repeating the same few days over and over again. Because he's afraid of what would happen next. And after going through it about 200 times, he's like, but wait a second. I could rape people and then turn back time. And has a solid 5-minute internal monologue thinking like that.
実はついこの間もオフィスの方が荒らされたことがあって。
じゃあ単なる偶然じゃないな。何者かがヒヤジョーさんの持っている何かを探しているんだ。
そうね。でも何を探しているのかは見当がついてるわ。
なんだ？
Oh, Samus, are you here to swing your sword? If not, I can handle it. Thank you, Samuses.
クリスのノート PC よ。
Begone, bots.
れか。
Putting all the pieces together seemed the most likely option. I could be sure that whoever tried to overwrite Kagari's memories was the same group that attacked her in the other world line. Whoever those people were, they were after the time machine theory hidden in Kurisu's memories. But since their experiment had failed and Kagari had escaped, they turned their attention to the other thing Kurisu had left behind, the laptop and hard drive that Maho had. But if they were after that, did that mean they had it now?
その PC ってこの前真帆たんが僕に託したやつ？
何？
実はね、どうしてもパスワードを解析したくて、ここに
Hello, Chaos. How's it going?
橋田さんにお願いしたの。
それじゃあノート PC は？
無事のはずよ。ね。
もちろん。今は僕の秘密のアジトにあるのだぜ。
In your secret hideout? Can you tell us where that is?
でもずっとセルンのハッキングにかかりきりだったからまだパスワードは解析できてないけどね。
I haven't had time to analyze it. I think you're missing a 2 there. That made me feel a lot better. Now, if only we knew who had broken into her room, but it wouldn't be that easy. Still, if they'd done something like that, they must be starting to panic. What would they do next? Wait a second.
もしかしたらこれは使えるかもしれない。
If you're in HD, that's how it's going? Yeah. Yeah, we found a significant larger amount of just spelling and grammatical errors in this game. Like I think we found like maybe 1 or 2 in the last one. We found at least 3 in like the past 3 streams.
使えるって？
And I think there was also once they had the wrong character name. Like they were talking and they had the wrong character name. Oh, we found 3 in just Wednesday stream. You read that as Polish? Yeah. I mean, maybe the last one was translated into Polish and this one isn't. I didn't want to waste time explaining, so I just took out my phone and made the call. Yes, Samus did make that joke last stream. Oh, we got the SpongeBob announcer voice. Several days later. Kagari's condition was getting worse. Oh, and we're now the back of Kagari's head. Staccato footsteps echoed through the darkness. Akihabara got quiet early. Ever-busy electronics stores, the concert halls that were filled with cheers, and the coffee shops that were full of laughter. All of that gave way to silence as soon as night fell. A single set of footsteps walked slowly through the silence, never breaking rhythm. They belonged to a girl. It was dark, so it was hard to see her clearly. It was very clear that she was acting strange. She had a cap pulled down over her face, and was trying to avoid letting anyone see her as she walked. As if she was hiding from someone. As if someone was chasing her. And just as she was about to turn a corner, several men jumped out in front of her. The girl stopped in surprise. Suddenly, there were men behind her, too.
Kagari だな。
One of the men spoke. His Japanese was fluent, but if she listened carefully, she might have detected a trace of a foreign accent. The girl they called Kagari was helpless as they surrounded her. One of the men thought to himself, "This is the easiest job in the world." All they had to do was kidnap a single, helpless-looking, there's the important word, girl. There was no need to bring this many people. Yes, this is the girl who has the memories implanted in her. So Kagari is this girl, and then Kurisu is the girl whose memories are implanted inside of her head, who is currently dead. No, it wasn't just him. Almost everyone there felt the same way.
おとなしくしていれば手荒な真似はしない。
The men gradually began to close in. The girls simply stood there afraid and showed no signs of resistance. No, we don't know which personality is in charge at this moment in time. She's slowly been giving in more to Kurisu's personality rather than her own. My guess is it's closer to that, but we have no way of knowing at this point. This was too easy. Just as the man smiled and reached out his hand. Oh snap, did you just like cut his hand off? Thought he heard the sound of something slicing through the air, and he fell to the ground, clutching his hand. It looked like 3 sausages lying on the ground. Okay, we just cut off 3 of his fingers. That's lovely. You're betting this is another... Yeah, world lines are what they call when you travel between. I don't think it'll be another world line. It's the main character, Okabe. He has a special ability that lets him remember what happens between different world lines. For everyone else, they don't remember what happened or that it's changed, except in like very extreme circumstances. I guess it's possible, and we just haven't heard from Okabe yet. But usually, if there's a world line change, it starts with him, just so that they can establish what's the same and what's different. Before they realized that the sausages were the man's fingers, another man went down from a high kick to the head. The men began to howl in rage.
You fucking bitch!
They leapt at the girls, swearing, but... One of the men who was trying to attack her from behind suddenly screamed.
Oi, oi. 静かにしな。あんまりうるさくすると、おめえらも困るんじゃねえのか?
A huge man came out of the darkness, silhouetted by the moon. Now we're back to Okabe, apparently. Oh, we're here, like, watching it from the darkness? So, okay, it's hidden behind my face. We've jumped ahead 4 days. We're now on the 15th of January. Previously, we were on the 11th. That was all I could say as I watched those tough men go down, one after the other. I knew from his size that Tanoji was strong. It was the other girl that really shocked me. Her disguise ruined, Suzuha jumped around like a cat. Each time she moved, the men around her quivered. I knew she'd undergone combat training, but I had no idea she was this strong when she was serious. The kicks from her long, lithe legs were like a work of art. The men fell to the ground without even having the time to draw their knives and guns. Several days earlier, when I realized that the enemy was probably starting to panic, I came up with a plan. In the last world line, Moeka had told me that someone was looking for Kagari. I wondered if that was true in this world line too. So I asked Moeka to leak some information for me. A girl matching Kagari Shina's description came down this road at the same time every day. And today, a few days later, they'd all taken the bait. I'd hung back behind the corner of an alley, watching them fight. I felt kind of pathetic. But it was obvious that not only would I be of no help whatsoever, I'd actually just get in the way. So it was smarter to leave it to them. I heard Daru's voice from the earphone on one of my ears. I'd called him and left the call connected so he could talk at any time. Daru had been opposed to Suzuha's plan to use herself as a decoy. He must have been worried about putting his daughter in danger. Oh, to make things even more complicated, Suzuha, the girl who has the two like loop things, who was the decoy here, is Daru's daughter from the future, and it ticks me off even more knowing that pervert has a daughter in the future, and that he still lewds her in the present. Great choice.
心配いらない。お前の娘は想像よりずっとすごいよ。
そりゃ僕の娘だからね。でも傷物になんかされたらオカリン一生恨むからな。
You'd be better off worrying with the people she was fighting. I suddenly heard a high-pitched whistle. At the signal, the men started to turn and run. They'd realized they'd fallen into a trap and decided to retreat.
おっと、そうはいくかよ。
Tenoji's giant arms grabbed one of the men's hands, but there was a hollow popping sound, and the man's body went limp. No way. He was dead? He took his own life? A piercing yell brought me back to my senses. One of the men was coming toward the alleyway where I was hiding. Thank you for permitting that. Kill big man had to be. It wasn't the big man that was killed. It was so he grabbed one of the people who was trying to run away, and then instead of being captured, the man he grabbed a hold of took his own life instead of being captured. I've seen Automod mod some really weird things. Like, there was one time it didn't like... Was it the word Game Boy or something? Yeah, he did it to himself. At least that's... Yeah, that one made sense at least. Kill big man. I mean, there's worse things that have been said. But yeah, like, I can at least see where that one was coming from. Our goal was to capture them and make them tell us who they were working for. If we couldn't do that, all of this would be for nothing. I ran out in front of the man without even thinking. My sudden appearance caused him to hesitate for a moment, but he kept charging without dropping his speed. I saw that he was holding onto something shiny near his waist. Just as he hit me, Suzuha slammed into him with a jump kick. The kick knocked him directly into Noji's waiting arms. Noji caught him easily, then spun the man's arms around his back so he couldn't hurt himself.
おじさん、怪我は大丈夫？
なんともない。
I mean, who? Big Arm Man is currently single.
オカリン、どうしたん？何があった？
心配するな。こっちはみんな無事だ。それより鈴葉、奴は。
Don't I get the feeling we just got stabbed? Something like a scream came out of his mouth. At some point, Tenoji jammed what looked like a towel into it. He was probably trying to keep him from killing himself like the last guy.
おいおい、あんまり暴れるんじゃねえよ。騒ぎになって困るのはおめえもだろうが。それにまだ一本目だぜ。情けねえ。
Gosh, so my brain just went. So Big Muscle Man is the landlord for our laboratory. It's above his store. I bet you someone's made a fan fiction of like, I can't pay my rent. Oh no, Big Muscle Daddy, what you gonna do? For sure it's been made. I just can't believe it took me this long to think of it.
それが終わったら目だ。それから両方の耳、鼻。まだまだお楽しみはいっぱいあるんだぜ。
His voice was cold. This was the real Tenoji. This was FB. Facebook. This is how Facebook acts. I wanted to look away, but Suzuho was watching without flinching in the
俺だって
slightest.
面倒な真似はしたくねえ。どうせ吐くんなら早めに吐いた方がお互いのためだと思うぜ。
Oh, that's a lovely sound.
ん？どうだ？もう一本行くか。
The man shook his head
最
violently.
初からそうすりゃいいんだよ。で、おめえさんたちの元締めは誰だ？
Tenoji took the towel out of the man's mouth. He said something in a whisper so small I couldn't hear it. Tenoji's pallor suddenly changed.
ストラト4？
Stratophore. Fictional, official name, Strategic Focus, an American civilian intelligence company, sometimes called the Shadow CIA. It has its own independent intelligence network that it uses to gather and analyze security information from around the globe. Many famous companies and military organizations sit on its board of advisors. They are a for-profit company with completely different ideals and policies from groups like Anonymous, who crack classified information, or WikiLeaks, which publishes public interest information from whistleblowers. There is a real information brokerage company named Strategic Forecasting Inc., based out of Texas. This company bears no relationship whatsoever with Strategic Focus. I assume this is based on something in real life, but I don't know what it is.
冗談じゃねえだろな。
The man desperately shook his head
ス
again.
トラト4か。また面倒な奴らが。
Stratfor. I'd heard of them. Back when I was into conspiracy theories, I'd looked them up back on the internet. Their real name was Strategic Focus, I think. They were an American civilian intelligence company, sometimes called the... This is just what we read in the description. If it's just going to make me read it again, we're going back here. But this time for the CIA. Abbreviation used by the American Central Intelligence Agency, the CIA reports directly to the president. They engage in spying, intelligence gathering, and political manipulation in foreign nations to guarantee America's security. They are said to have been involved in many major historical events. They specialize in military matters, and their skills had supposedly been put to good use during the Iraq and Gulf Wars. If a CERN rounder like Tenoji said they were a problem, they probably were. So this wasn't going to be easy. But now wasn't a time for being scared.
今すぐにストラト4のサーバーにハッキングをかけてくれ。
オキドキ。
Once again, he is just a plot hook so we can hack stuff. I felt myself starting to relax after I completed my first objective, but there wasn't time for that. This was where things really began.
どうしたの店長？何か気にかかることでも？
いや、ストラト4といや民間の会社だぜ。いわば金によって雇われてる連中だ。そんな奴らがいくら捕まったからって自決までするか？
It did seem strange, come to think of it.
おい、おめえ本当に？
Tenoji tried to wring the man's neck again, but...
気を失ってやがる。だらしねえやつだ。
Noji sighed and took out a rope, then started to tie him up.
後始末は俺に任せて、おめえらは行け。
いいんですか？
これで終わりじゃねえんだろ。
I was a little curious what he intended to do with them, but
後のことはお願いします。
I had other priorities right now. Said my thanks to Tanoji and hurried to the lab with Suzuha. He's gonna clap them cheeks.
おじさん早く。
分かってる。
Suzuha ran through the night like a panther. It was all I could do to keep up. The path to the lab seemed far longer than it usually did. I finally made it back to the lab. Mayuri, Ferris, and everyone else already there waiting. And Kagari too. But I think that's where I'm gonna call it for tonight. Yeah, I think that's a good place.